Sweet, sweet, sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Can you guys hear me all right out there in the wonderful world of the internet? Back server URL, stream URL. Okay, yeah, it's already shared on Twitter, I believe. Ever since YouTube changed up some things here. First off, hi everyone, welcome, welcome. But YouTube kind of changed up the way they oh, that's weird. It goes to Streamlabs whenever it gets tweeted out. That's kind of an odd. Maybe it'll I'm not sure if that redirects to YouTube or not. I'm like still kind of figuring out some things, and it's annoying because YouTube like doesn't let you edit stuff before you start your stream, which makes, in my mind, like 0 sense. Stream URL. So I copied the URL. And then I might put it on Discord too right quick. Oh, Okay, I guess it automatically does it through Discord's announcement stuff anyways, so. Let me just close out of Discord real quick. Sorry guys, I hope this isn't too, as I give myself a little bit of time here to figure things out. I'm gonna bring this chat, edit your stream title and description. Let's see here. We want this to live chat. Got to remember how to like bring the pop out chat. Okay, pop out chat. That's how we do it. It's been a little bit, been a few weeks here. I'm old Greg. Yes, yes. Now I can see you guys talking to me, and I'm so sorry for. Am I streaming on Twitch too? I'm not streaming on Twitch. Lils, thank you for the 5 buckaroonies. Appreciate that. That was super kind of you. Thank you for the warm welcome back. Hey, Jensen's here. Ho 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 is how I say hi to my 3 sisters. That's hilarious. I'm kind of curious, like, as far as streaming goes, like, because one thing I'd like to edit is the, on the stream itself, like, I wish that I could, you used to be able to, like, edit what happens to the stream, like, before you even started, like, you could edit the, let's see, edit, okay, so I can change the thumbnail, which is perfect, is exactly what I wanted, stream, or I think it was called Q&A. Let's read Q&A stream. Yeah, okay, so that's up. So this is not made for kids. I don't even know why that has to be asked. Silly, silly. Silly, silly, dilly, dilly. Okay, I guess once it gets released, the cheesy 80 porn music. Oh yeah, I guess you've never heard hip hop before. Hi from Germany. Hello, guten Tag. Share, create a highlight. Oh, you can create highlights in this area here, which is sweet. Axeman, you son of a bee. What's up? Has my voice gotten deeper? Maybe. Maybe I've gone through another round of puberty. You just had a snowstorm in Michigan. Okay, well, these stories will be perfect for you. What did I get for Christmas? You know, honestly, I'm kind of at that age. You know, I'm 29, so getting presents for Christmas from family and stuff, I don't know how it goes for other people's family. It's just like not as conventional. Like I got some money from my parents, but I ended up just using it to give to my nephew because I didn't outright get him anything. So I was like, just gave him that money, which sounds bad, just regifting, but I'm pretty sure he can probably use this for all of his, Fortnite V-Bucks or whatnot. He did have like some stupid Fortnite silenced pistol or something he was winking around with, made by Nerf. Joel underwent 2 rounds of puberty, his own and mine. That's right. He stole my puberty. I remain an adolescent child at the age of 33. Your testosterone flows through me. Will I do a top 10 of my favorite stories you've read? I don't think so. I don't think I can remember, honestly. Some of my favorite ones that I've read definitely are the ones that kind of involve sort of like the true crime historical stuff, where people send in stuff about different stuff they've researched on different stories, and I think that's really cool to me. Ranger says, just want to tell you really helped me through some hard times and are a big influence. Thank you, Ranger. I'm glad. I get messages like that from time to time, and it does make me feel really good just to be something to people, Because, my day-to-day, for the most part, I don't really necessarily feel much of, or feel that I, affect my community or much of that kind of thing, if you know what I mean. I'm sure you can relate to a certain degree, but it does feel good to be helpful to people sort of indirectly through the creation of my content and that kind of thing, through my voice, I suppose. Also, Mr. Gooley, I finally hopped on my PC so I could become a member since I can't go on mobile. Oh, well, Mr. Gooley, thank you for becoming a member. Did you become a member? I guess not during a stream. I guess it would have notified me during the stream, but thank you either way. Did I just mention Nerf as in Nerf guns? Man, those were childhood. I miss those good old Nerf battles with friends. Yeah, those were the days where all those just styrofoam bullets and Nerf darts just hanging around everywhere. What do I do at the gym? Just CrossFit shit. You know me, one of them crazy CrossFitters. And I did, the other day I did some bodybuilding stuff with my friend, which is nice because it's like CrossFit, you're constantly moving your ass all the time, and then with bodybuilding you can just kind of relax and get a freaking pump going. Oh yeah, ooh, freaking pump it up, let me tell you. Alright, let's see what other options good old YouTube provides us with. So there's slow mode, members only chat. I guess we could do that at some point, even though I don't think we have a whole lot of members to really make that, and that might be kind of boring. Details, allow embedding. I'm not really sure what that is. Video contains, no, it's not a paid promotion. For tags and other details, visit YouTube Studio. I guess I can click that to see where and which that leads us to. Oh, so it brings you back to the old. Huh. That's quite interesting. So it actually brings you back to the... Sorry to kind of walk you guys through this or whatever, but... True Scary Stories. Let's read. Live stream. Whoops. Just typing in random shit here. just to give it some tags. Live stream, narration, maybe ASMR. I don't know if that's ASMR is a good one for anybody. Scary stories, true stories. Yeah. You know, it's not a whole lot right now, but oh, actually, maybe this isn't the old system here, but so visibility is public. Sorry to just deal with this, guys. Once I get this figured out, I'm gonna be a pog champ. I'm gonna be a god amongst boys. More options: recording date, 9, video location, none, license, video language, category entertainment, allow comments, sort by top. This video contains. Well, you know, after it gets released, I was kind of hoping to have it so it automatically goes to unlisted, because if you guys want to watch old streams, or say you missed the beginning of this stream and you want to get back into it, you can actually go to my streams playlist, and in the playlist you will be able to check out stuff, you know, old streams that are unlisted, and it should go by most recent streams first on the playlist. Well, I think we got about everything that's necessary in that. And even though I can't make it so that it goes immediately to unlisted and then to the playlist once it's done, like on the old stream system, I can just do that afterwards, and you guys will just have to keep an eye out for that. But since you guys are here for the streams, I appreciate you being here. Yeah, that's some. Let's see. Okay. Someone's messaged me, says that that was a trip. Nothing on FB. Streamlabs is about a 5-second delay. Ah, okay. Well, yeah, maybe I'll avoid doing tweeting of the thing through Streamlabs, which is like the system that I use for streaming. But yeah, we're gonna kick off the stories here in 7 minutes. Reminder that these are some true scary winter stories, so I hope you're pretty stoked about that. I think, dude, that freaking, what was it? The Halloween, or not Halloween, Jesus, the Christmas stories actually went really well. Crystal Velarda with the 1 buckaroo sends a poop emoji. Thank you so much for that poop emoji. Happy holidays to you. Jen, it's not working. I don't know what's not working. Sorry, guys. Get so distracted here. Yeah, winter stories should be dope. Green Turtles, welcome back. You're in Nebraska. Hell yeah. Things probably get a little cold out there, I bet. Ashna Rashid with the 1 buckaroo with the upside down smiley face. Have I ever heard of SCP-2585? What the hell is that about? That's something that I am looking up at this exact moment. SCP Foundation. Okay, it's a Euclid object class. Due to the infrequency of human contact with SCP-2585, containment for the phenomenon is largely self-imposed. The Foundation will operate through various front agencies to minimize climbing attempts of K2 during periods of SCP-2585 activity, and all deaths attributed to it are to be declared a result of avalanche or weather conditions. Terrestrial and satellite observation of K2 is to be maintained continuously. As the nature of SCP-2585 remains unclear, containment procedures are to be considered tentative. Alright, description. 2585 is a cloud known to manifest in the vicinity of K2 in Pakistan. The cloud, upon appearing, will enshroud K2 entirely, obscuring the mountain's surface. 2585 does not visibly differ from normal cloud cover, but it's detectable by the spontaneity of its onset and the unusually high atmospheric pressure within it. Regions affected by SCP-2585 experience volatile meteorological and topographical disturbances, none of which are observable from outside the cloud cover. SCP-2585 manifestations may occur at any time, and there is no determined pattern to these occurrences. SCP-2585-1 is a humanoid entity which to date has been encountered by all individuals who attempt to climb K2 during manifestations. The entity is equipped with an Apollo... Hey, Welks! Welcome back. I think Welks was a member, but it might be a member re-upping right there. Thank you, Welks, as a full-grown pizza, member of the Buttersock cult. And Jen, thank you for the 5. It's party time, baby. And Kathy Diaz, thank you for the buckaroony. That's Dancing Skeleton is nice. Yeah, I love it. Alright, so this entity, this SCP-2585, the entity is equipped with an Apollo Skylab A7L spacesuit, which entirely conceals their characteristics. It is roughly 2 meters in height. When encountered, SCP-2585 has been observed to travel the surface of K2 on foot as well as levitate via unknown measures. The entity never communicated verbally, but may have attempted to do so through body language. See exploration logs. The motivations of SCP-2585 are unclear. Presently is not even known whether the entity is sentient. SCP-2585-1 has never been observed except by individuals inside SCP-2585's cloud cover and has only been encountered at altitudes of above 7 kilometers. SCP-2585 was discovered by the Foundation in 1984, 30 years after the first successful ascent of K2. Since its discovery, it is believed to be responsible for at least blank of the unknown 80 deaths on the mountain. During that time, a number of disappearances has been reported in the region of Karakaram surrounding K2. This disappearance total of blank civilians and blank aircraft and all have occurred during periods. So it sounds like at least some of its manifestations are... I mean, there's some explorations there as well. But... not really sure. Is this some sci-fi thing or this legit? I'm confused. It's just sci-fi. I mean, I don't really know. SCP Foundation is kind of like a Wikipedia page of like just really weird things that the Secure, Contain, Protect agency, which is like a government entity, uses to protect sort of like anomalies that exist on Earth, presumably. I guess it can extend elsewhere, but there's a bunch of them, and people can go in there and enter their own. And I guess this one is, some sort of cloud that it manifests on K2, encompassing the entire mountain, and then people see sort of things that I guess sees some sort of individual in a spacesuit, which kind of sounds like me, I guess, right? Or at least my avatar. Karakaram Ranch, yeah. They're up there on Ram Ranch in K2. That's why it's so awesome when you get there. It's so hard to get to. Do you think Ram Ranch is an SCP? Alright guys, another minute here, and we'll kick off the stories. Sylvia Franca. My favorite creepypasta is Lockbar. Bigglestein. No clue if I spelled that right. I don't think I've seen that. Lila, Joel, do you watch The Mandalorian? I've watched about 5 episodes of The Mandalorian. Probably will finish that at some point, or at least catch up to wherever they're left off. Joel and Baby Yoda are the gods of our new religion. Prove me wrong. I would gladly hold a throne down with Baby Yoda. But Mandalorian's kind of had a bit of a slow start for me, I suppose. I kind of have a vague concept of what their direction with the show is going, but I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I just it almost kind of reminds me of like a I'm not even really sure. It's almost reminds me a little bit of like Like it's not as serious as I thought it would be. How do you donate? Yeah, how do you donate? I believe it's down in the chat area where it says like say something. I think there's like a money sign there you can put in and that whole spiel. But obviously you guys don't have to donate. It's just if you feel so inclined to support the stream and the page. Sugar Mills with the $10 says Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year, Sugar Mills. Hopefully we can get some New Year stories out before the actual New Year. Still kind of scrounging for those. And Cold Hearted 21 with the 2. Thank you, Cold Hearted. Star Wars boring AF. Yeah, the new one, I didn't see it. Do I have ADHD? I probably seem like it for how scatterbrained I am, but I think I've had a friend say that he thought I had ADHD, but if whatever lack of ability to pay attention exists in my mind, I don't think it's to the degree that it has hindered me in life at all to this point. But sometimes whenever I'm streaming, I just got like a trillion different things going on at one time. And by a trillion, I mean like 2 or 3. And I can't keep up. Cheyenne Dory Bob with the 2 says, hello, stop watching The Witcher to be here. All right. Yeah, you know, I heard it was a good show, The Witcher. Haven't checked it out. It's kind of cool that the guy who I think it's sweet that the guy who was in Superman is also in that. But yeah, ADHD is a weird thing to me. You know, I feel like it's such an ambiguous thing, like that you can't, you know, since it's obviously, I guess, like diseases are like, would you consider ADHD a disease or a generalized manifestation of, like, how would you define it? You know what I mean? I'm sure there is like sort of an overt definition, but a lot of the times I think people tend to kind of throw the term ADHD around almost like it has some sort of like definable, concrete, you know, definition for a disease. But to me, it always has seemed really ambiguous, I suppose. And it's always been frustrating because I think it kind of gets thrown around almost too loosely. It's, you know, you know, if someone says, do I have diabetes? You're like, oh, okay, let me check your, you know, the consistency of your blood sugars over the course of 3 to 6 months or something like that, you know, and then you have some objective data to go on to determine that. And so no. I didn't take insult to it at all. I really don't. Oh my God. Wow. Well, getting big donos from Samaruda84 with the 50. Is that pounds? Right? I don't even recall. I love getting those donuts because I love that notification. And Natalia, I don't know if she's here right now, she made that twerking emoji, but oh my God, Samaruda with the big 50. Thank you so much. It's so crazy to me, like I come into these streams and I kind of just like never anticipate, like, I guess the value of, you know, the content that I provide to be worth the amount that some people, you know, donate. And it literally blows my mind. It seriously does. But yeah, you are a champ, Samaruda. Thank you so freaking much. Appreciate that. But yeah, we are going to go ahead and switch to spooky mode here, because as you can see on screen, it says read time. We've chatted for a good 20 minutes. We've got about 300 people in. Guys, I think that's actually a new world record for number of people starting a stream, so that's pretty dope. I'm gonna put on Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, the prolific spooky spooky man himself. Dita Skov says, my ADHD for me means that I have it harder at handling conflicts and my own feelings than other people might handle conflicts and their feelings. Just to give you a short answer. Oh, that's loud. Is that too loud for you guys? That spooky music? That spooky music? That might be just a tad too poppin' for me. Yeah, that's the thing, is that the definition for ADHD, I guess, would differ from person to person. But I guess the question then can be asked from that, if in a similar fashion that like lifting weights, it's a weird analogy, but lifting weights for someone is harder for someone else because they have, I guess, a genetic advantage from the beginning to handle a heavy weight or handle, physical stimuli and that kind of thing physically. Would you then, be able to say that through various processes of whatever discipline, do you think overcoming an ADHD, manifestations could be overcome then, I suppose, through those disciplines, through those, that working towards handling conflicts and your own feelings in a better way? You know what I mean? That's where I kind of am curious about it, to put it as lightly as possible. Time for the daily dose of listening to your voice whilst hitting the hay. Heck yeah. Get comfortable, guys. And this will probably be the last time on the stream that I include the Christmas background. That is on the hypothetical. Maybe I stream on like New Year's Eve or something. When is New Year's Eve? That's Tuesday. So if like in 2 days I decide to stream it again, even though I do sort of, even though I do anticipate doing something, but I think I've gotten to an age where like people my age or people within my social circles just are not that much into partying and all that kind of thing. So I almost feel like it's me being a little bit older is to people's benefit who are also staying in, because there might be a chance that, hey, maybe I'll stream. And I would love to use this Christmas background again, because Robin put so much work into all of that. And yeah. Steph says, Joel, how do I get rid of social anxiety? It's really hard to deal with, and it's easy to feel like you're suffering alone. It really just comes down to repetition in my mind with anything. You want to get good at jogging, you got to go jogging. You want to get good at talking to people that are in, a certain demographic. Like, I'm 33. No, I'm 29. Not that it matters. 33 and 29 are like the same age to me anyways. But, like, it all just comes down to repetition. So, like, for me, if I suffered from social anxiety, it would sort of require being placed in a scenario in which you were almost like forced to overcome that, or almost forcing yourself to overcome that, in a similar fashion that someone that's had an addiction to alcohol for years, like they have to make the necessary efforts to overcome those things that they consider faults in their life or difficulties or health issues, so like a hypothetical scenario was whenever I was a nurse. When I was a nurse, I worked with a lot of the middle-aged demographic, so middle-aged to elderly demographic, and basically I every day would go into work and I would have very sort of forced to a certain degree, but it got easier over time, like interactions with people between the ages of 40 to 75 or older. You know what I mean? Like basically anybody that was in that realm of like possibly having surgeries done or health issues start to arise, which is like, potentially as early as like your late 30s into your 40s and all that kind of stuff. And I would say that because I was so often placed in that sort of customer service esque or sociable interaction scenario with that demographic of people, it almost like started becoming like muscle memory within my mind of how to speak to these individuals outside of work. You know what I mean? Um, and I did. If I go to meet a friend's parents or something of that nature, like they're older, and I used to kind of feel uncomfortable maybe around older people or not sure what to say, but now I just kind of like there's a certain presentation that I've sort of generated within my own personality to break through those sort of you know barriers that initially exist in the social interaction. So hypothetically, you're a younger individual, teens to early 20s, or late 20s, whatever, and you're trying, or whatever age you are, you're trying to learn how to better interact with individuals that are your peers. I mean, the only way to do it is just to throw yourself out there. You know what I mean? You literally will only overcome your weaknesses by thrusting yourself headlong into those weaknesses and coming out stronger on the other side. Kyle Bachman says, Tiffany, why did you cheat on me? Damn it, Tiffany, what the hell? Well, guys, we're going to hope this music isn't too loud for you or too distracting. We're going to kick off into the stories. And though you know me, I love to ramble on and on. And if I ever say like an opinion that is that you disagree with, please don't hesitate to voice your opposing opinion as well, because I'm all about learning different perspectives and want to keep dialogue as open as much as possible. And you know how it goes. I think that's a good thing. I said thrusting, lol. I did say thrusting. You must thrust yourself. Thrust. Headlong. All right. The arrival of cold weather is a thing I can look forward to every year. However, the season has carried with it a tinge of pain for the last few years, because it was about this time, in 2014, when I lost the love of my life in a horrible car accident. Melissa and I had met during my second year of college. She was a year behind me and would often seek me out when she had questions regarding her classes. I finally told her, more in a joking way than anything, that if I was going to keep helping her with schoolwork, that she was going to owe me a date. To my surprise and joy, she agreed, and we were soon living together. We had our shares of ups and downs for the next few years, but managed to stick it out until graduation. Once we were both out of school, we made the next step and were married the following June. We weren't in a hurry to have any kids. We both had new jobs and lacked the security we would gain with time. When the time did come, we proudly announced the impending arrival of our first child, a boy, just days after our third anniversary. On the last week of March 2011, Jason Jr. came into our lives kicking and screaming, and I've never been happier. As you can imagine, life was hectic for a while. Not until... Whoops. Jen with the 10 says, am I the only one not hearing music, or is music coming? Oh, okay. Let's see. Tiffany, sorry for cheating. No worries. Christopher last with the $5. Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate that. Does anyone actually hear music? Okay, I can, sorry about that. I can turn that up there for you guys. And yeah, don't forget to smash that like button, and I think it lets YouTube know to alert more people about the live stream going on. Livy Ward with the fives. How's it going? Oh, it's going real good. Thank you, Livy, for the fiver. Okay, now you hear the music? Yeah, I guess it was initially, it sounded really kind of loud to me. So I was kind of like hesitant to like blow your guys' ears out too. So I'm just going to bring my headphones on my head here. Kind of takes me out of the immersion a little bit, but I haven't figured out quite how to adjust the volume where it's quiet on my end, but normal on your end, if you know what I mean. Do you work for a succubus because they suck out your soul or whatever? That's possible. Not until 2013 did we have the energy to go for one more, which we decided at the time would likely be our last. Having more wasn't out of the question in the future, but for now it seemed wise. It didn't take long before we had a new one on the way. Another boy, according to the doctors. The news of another boy on the way had me elated, but I couldn't help feeling that my life was going too well. Despite my misgivings, I went ahead into life with both feet. After an especially grueling summer, the arrival of fall was a welcome change. Halloween was fun, and Thanksgiving was the perfect excuse to gorge on food I wouldn't usually eat the rest of the year. We did decide to skip the Black Friday sales, choosing rather to begin our Christmas shopping the day after. The carnage involved has always struck me as stupid, so I put it off as long as I dare each year. Melissa thought it may be less hectic if we left Jason Jr. with his grandparents, and I agreed. They would surely love to spend some time with him, and we would be able to blow through the stores much quicker if it was just the two of us. I'm sure she added the last part for my sake. She was well aware of how much I hated holiday shopping. The night prior had been a hard freeze, and many sections of the road were dangerously slick because of the a-holes that left their sprinklers on. I was very aware of the danger that this posed and drove as defensively as possible. Defensively. Samantha, hello. I was very aware of the danger that this posed and drove as defensively as possible, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Melissa and I were discussing something, so I didn't see this big patch of ice at the curve ahead of us. We had just exited off the highway, so we were still going pretty fast. Just a little way down the road was a curve, and one side of that curve dropped off about 65 feet, almost straight down. I knew it was there, but I wasn't paying attention. The area going into and out of the curve was a giant sheet of ice, and I didn't see it at the time. When I did, rather than just let off the gas, I reflexively tapped on the brake. I estimate we were still going around 45 miles an hour when we hit it. Because of my stupid driving, we slid quickly sideways, hit the curb, and flipped down the hill, spinning the whole time. Since I didn't have my seatbelt on, I was thrown from the car, which was a 2004 Isuzu Rodeo, and knocked out. I'm still unaware of how long I was unconscious, but it couldn't have been long. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was at the top of the hill. I strained to turn my head to see where the car had stopped and eventually caught sight of it laying upside down at the bottom of the hill. The roof had been crushed flat with the body, and I couldn't see Melissa moving. I hoped at the time that she had also been thrown and survived, but she had not. To make things more horrific, the rodeo caught fire a few minutes later, and there was nothing I could do but lay there with a broken body and watch my wife and future child burn up. Possibly even alive for all I knew. All I could do was sob uncontrollably until I passed out again. I wouldn't regain consciousness completely until that night. The pain I was feeling could only be matched by the grief I was feeling from the loss of my wife and child. I called for the nurse, and she came in and showed me how to work my morphine pump. Once I was aware of it, I found myself pushing the button often. Around midday the following day, I spoke to the doctors and then the police. The doctors informed me that I had broken both of my legs, 3 vertebrae, and had a concussion among many other injuries. Needless to say, I was going to have a long, hard road ahead of me. The police and even... Fuck, dude, this is kind of heavy. Jesus Christ. How is this scary? It's sad. I know, this is a really sad story. I guess scary and sad are kind of like one and the same. When you grow up, you want to be a Capri Sun. That could be possible. Just keep staying sweet. The police had even more bad news to share. I hadn't bothered to ask about Melissa's condition. I knew if she would have made it, somebody would have said something. My hopes that she had been thrown free of the car with... My hopes that she had been thrown free of the car were shot down. The only positive thing, which you really can't call positive, was that she and the child had died on impact with the ground. I attempted to soothe myself the knowledge that they, at least, hadn't burned alive, but it proved to be cold comfort. Jason Jr. stayed with my folks during my holiday stay, and once I was released, they stayed with me a while to help me until I could function on my own. I'm not going to say much about the funeral. It's still too painful of a thing to recall. Since that time, I've undergone 2 back surgeries and foresee at least 1 more in the future. I was ruled to be disabled by Social Security and now live off the benefits I receive. I'm also able to make a little on the side, doing tax consulting, so Jason Jr. and I get by okay. Jason Jr. was still too young to really remember his mother. However, now that he's at that age to be aware of her absence, I tell him all I can about her. Make sure he knows how much she loved him, and maybe in a few years, I'll tell him about his little brother too. Every day I'm reminded of how much I lost that day, but then I realize how much I have gained. My time with her may have been brief, but every moment at... Jesus Christ. Astronaut, are you asleep? I think so. He's starting to pass out next to that fire. It looks pretty cozy. Yeah, this story is like a sucker punch. Holy shiz. My time with her may have been brief, but every moment of it was great. We created a beautiful and bright boy together. I'd say we did pretty good. I think Jason Jr. and I are... We're gonna be all right. Yeah, F to pay respects on that one. Holy shit. Oh, Spartan, yeah, thanks for keeping track of the mistakes. We have not had that in quite some time. $371 people in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, that was a tough one. Hopefully the subsequent stories are not anywhere as sad. Hopefully this next one has... Yeah, I don't even know. It's Lauren, love you too, thank you. That epic Reddit moment whenever you literally cry during the story. Alright, let's... Hopefully this next one, if it doesn't lighten the mood a tinge, hopefully it'll at least spook us a little bit. Rest in peace, Harambe. Kyle Bachman says, can you read my story? We gotta submit it to the subreddit, my friend. reddit.com/r/let's-read-official. I wish I got the just Let's Read subreddit. That would have been way better, but... no big deal. Yeah, reckless driving. Jesus Christ. Also, yeah, I guess when you're going over ice, you're just supposed to, like, let up on the brakes or whatever, whereas some people, like, hit the brakes and then it ends up, like, locking everything up and really turning out bad. Jen Child with the 5. Thank you, Jen. How was my Christmas? Oh, yeah. My Christmas was really good, guys. I got up around the morning time, and my parents picked me up with my brother and his son in tow, and we went to my grandparents. My mom's side of the family's got like 8, the grandparents had 8 kids, so it's pretty big family. Pretty wild and out. So that's always an interesting experience. My grandparents are kind of, they're like in their late 80s, so they've had some health issues. So, obviously praying that this isn't the last Christmas we get to spend with them, but they've kind of had some health issues as time has gone on. So it definitely was, I guess, one of those ones where everyone as a family just kind of appreciated each other a little bit more, knowing that things might change quite a bit here in the future with the departing of, the patriarch of the family. Alec Vega with the $4 says, hey man, love your scary stories, bro. Keep it up. Thank you, Alec. Thank you. And Livy Ward with the 2 says, hey you. Hey you. Yeah, there's so many little cousins. I mean, my cousins are having kids, and it's just, sometimes I feel kind of weird, like I've, like, oh, should I be on top of that? But it seems kind of chaotic right now, and I'm sure the day will come where Let's Read's seed will spread. Spread the seed across the land. Winter is long and cold up here, but fun nonetheless. As a child, I would stay outside all day playing in the snow. As a child, I would stay outside all day playing in the snow and then have to soak my hands in warm water for 10 minutes just to get the feeling back in them. Stupid or not, those were the best times of my life. However, the winter I was in 5th grade, something horrible would be set in motion in my town. School would just let out for Christmas break when the first body was found. His name was Mike Keller, and he was a 2nd grader from Mount Vernon. The reports on the news said that he had been beaten severely, but he also had multiple stab wounds that were determined to be the cause of death. I can't say that the murder caused an uproar. That would come later, but it certainly got folks' attention. It didn't put a dent in my thick head. If my mom mentioned it to me, I don't recall it. My usual life continued unabated. Day after day, I would spend my time playing in the snow, only taking breaks to eat and play Minecraft. Things didn't really ramp up until another kid was found. This one turned out to be from my neck of the woods. The police reports echoed that of the previous murder, although the stab wounds were far more numerous than on the body of Keller. Now was when the parents, county-wide, started taking the threat more seriously. I'm sure every kid got the same speech I did, warning of the dangers of talking to people you didn't know. When everyone would discover the truth behind the murders, it would be much more horrible than they expected. If any kid paid attention to their parents' warnings, I wasn't one of them. My mom's words went in one ear and out the other. Since the snow had long melted after Christmas Day, I had plans to meet up with friends at our hand-built fort in the woods. But when I got there, the only people around were 2 kids I didn't know very well. One was a 7th grader, and the other was a year behind me. He went to the same school as I did, and the rumor was that he had been held back twice. From the looks of him, the rumors were true. Despite only being slightly taller than me, he was already showing signs of a mustache. When it comes to the older kids, I didn't know much about him other than he had a reputation for being mean to younger kids, so the second I saw him, I got very nervous. The 2 of them, whose names I'm not going to mention here for the reason you will soon see, were acting like they were my best friends despite never talking to me before. When the older boy asked me if my friends were on their way, I foolishly told the truth. If they weren't already at the fort, they probably wouldn't be coming. This must have been the answer they were hoping for, because as soon as I said it, they began their attack. The older boys sucker punched me to the ground. I came very close to passing out. Now I know if I had, I would have been number 3 on their hit list, but somehow I stayed awake. I used a nearby tree to get to my feet just in time to see the younger kid pull a folding knife from his pocket. The older kid was swinging a wooden bat around. When they saw me stand up, the older boy ran up to me and swung for my head. I ducked, but he was close enough to rip. Holy shit, this is intense. You and the chat stinks. Bye. Alright, Jeff. Sorry, buddy. Rip on Joel. Joel's ripped. Rip a fart on me, guys. Me and the chat stinks. Why do we stink, guys? What happened to us? Yeah, that would terrify me if you had kids, like sending them out into the world. And I ducked, but he was close enough to rip a lock of hair out when the bat hit the tree above me. I figured the kid with a knife was coming after me next, so I booked it out of there. My legs were still a little rubbery, but I knew if I stopped, I was dead. The older kid was right on my heels, and my lungs were burning terribly. However, I was fortunate to live on the edge of the woods and made it inside my house before they caught up with me. I ran into my mom, and I breathlessly tried to explain what had just happened. She understood enough to be upset and yelled for my dad to call the police. My mom quickly explained the situation to him, and he relayed it to the dispatcher. The police came quick, and I told them what had happened and who did it. They had no problem finding the boys. They must have known it was over for them, and they both went home and waited. The brutality of the murders was taken into consideration, and it was decided to keep them in custody until their trials. Naturally, the DA wanted to try them as adults, but they were just a bit too young. Since each boy was blaming the other, despite both being responsible, they were tried separately. Neither showed any remorse, and as a result, they were given life for each murder and 15 to 25 for the attempt on my life. Had this happened just a few years earlier, they both would have likely been given life without parole for each charge. Had this happened just a few years earlier, they both would have been likely given life without parole for each murder charge. But recent legislation states that an offender cannot be given such a sentence if they committed their crime as a youthful offender. Ultimately, the legislation mattered not. Both boys were transferred to the adult system at 21, and because of crimes they committed inside, they probably won't ever get out. And that's the way that I like it. Shit. Sorry. Tofu versus tempeh. I've never had tempeh. And that's the way that I like it. It was glaringly obvious to everyone around at that time that they weren't right in the head. It's just terrible that 2 young boys, and almost me, had to lose their lives before something was done about it. Don't eat tofu. You know, I've kind of had tofu here and there, like tasted it, and I'm not a fan. I don't really feel like it has any taste. I'm not a fan of like the sort of gelatin-esque texture. My old roommate, he would always get like tofu skins and stuff like that with General Tso's sauce. And, you know, it wasn't terrible, but I don't even know. It was kind of funny. I saw a recent news story that was discussing the Burger King Impossible Burger or whatever that's made with like plant-based soy stuff or whatever, and it said that it had like 18 million times the amount of estrogen that a normal Whopper would have. I don't really know what any of that means, but I just thought it would be funny. Like, you eat one of those and just immediately grow like a perfect set of boobies. That would be kind of funny. Whoppers are pretty good, though. I mean, actually, some of the best burgers I've had is probably from Wendy's recently. Just because you get those triple stacks, and I don't know what it is. Biting into the freaking Wendy's burgers is like thebomb.com. Joel sauce, you dip. If you see a cup of Joel sauce, make sure you dip your soy burger in that. 16.9%. Or did I say 16.9%? It was like literally 16 million times the amount of estrogen or something like that. Now, what that would happen to your body, I'm not really sure. It just seems like really... It seems a bit excessive, you know? Tia says, Joel, is it okay I make a Let's Read Talks Dirty remix? If you can, I think that would be hilarious. I would absolutely, if you somehow make that happen, I would... And you should maybe like submit it over Discord or something, but I would definitely share that on social media. I think that'd be hilarious. Five Guys burgers. Oh yeah, Five Guys are good. Five Guys are just so messy though. I mean, I guess they're all just messy as shit and terrible for you, but fuck, dude. The Baconator, hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother, the Baconator. Burger King estrogen lettuce. If your estrogen levels raise that high, you're in danger of becoming a full-grown pizza. If your estrogen levels get to the 16 million mark, you immediately become a member on this channel. Alright, so this is going to be story numero uno dos tres. Uno dos tres. Numero uno dos tres. Perfect pronunciation. This happened to my dad back in the 60s when he was a kid. He grew up with a brother and his parents in the rural part of Michigan. I had asked him once or twice about his younger brother when I discovered he'd had one. This is the story he told me of why he was missing from our lives. This is, in his words, more or less... This is, in his words, more or less... We were the example of Hicks when I was growing up. My great-grandparents had come over from Sweden back in the 1800s, and nobody had left the farm since then, except to fight in Europe. Our lives depended on the weather and what the land could provide for us. We didn't even get electricity until I was 8 years old. We did have automobiles, but they were usually old and worn out by the time they got to us, put together with baling wire and stuff like that. Well, my little brother Bill and I went out one morning, I think it was early February, to go hunt some rabbits for the pot. That should give you an idea of how poor we were back then, but Bill and me, we didn't know any better. We never had to be asked twice to go hunting. That morning was incredibly cold, and it had snowed 2 or 3 inches overnight. I had, and... Whoops. Why are we who are we water ballooning? What's the deal with water balloon? The story. Fuck, where was I? I had it. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Got a bit lost there. I had on almost every bit of clothing I owned, and so did Bill. It was about 9 before we left the house. We were headed to the woods that sat across the lake. The woods took up about 30 acres of our 50. God damn it. Squeaking and squawking. The woods took up about 30 acres of our 50, and it was chock full of game, big and small. I was carrying the .410 and Bill had the .22. Both of us had our pockets overfull with extra ammo. God, dude, I'm fucking up. Both of us had our pockets full. Both of us had our pockets overfull with extra ammo. Ammo was one of those things even poor folks had a lot of back then. We were kind of in a hurry because we got started later than normal and I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have been. Between sunup and when we left, it had probably warmed up about at least 20 degrees. We hadn't made it 100 yards before we turned back to shed some layers. Mama yelled at us to stop fooling around and get to hunting, so my mind was on getting to the woods as fast as possible. It took us about 10 minutes to reach the lake. The layer of snow on the top of the ice had already melted, leaving the ice slicker than normal. Under normal circumstances, we would have stepped lightly as we crossed so as not to end up on our butts, but this morning we were running late. I slipped a couple of times, and Bill, who was behind me a few steps, had to hold onto my coat to stay upright on a few occasions. I could see tracks leading into the trees as we got close, and my pace began to pick up. It was about 20 yards from the end of the ice when I heard a loud bang, quickly followed by a splash. I looked back to check on Bill, only to see that he disappeared. I saw that a hole had broken through the ice, roughly 2 feet across. It was clear what had happened, so I did something that probably wasn't very wise and threw myself onto the ice. I jammed my arms into the hole, reaching all around it, feeling for one of Bill's hands or arms. It didn't take but less than a minute for my arms to start screaming in pain from the cold water. I began panicking because I knew every second he was in that ice-cold water he was less likely to come out. I didn't want to take my arm out of the water, but I knew I couldn't stand the pain one moment more. I stared at the hole, hoping to see Bill pop out of it while I rubbed the feeling back into my arms. I was just about to give up when I got the idea to break off a long tree limb and stick it down in the hole. I found one, and it took me a few seconds to break it, but once I had, I ran back to the hole and stuck it into the water. I'd switch sides of the hole every few seconds, hoping I'd feel him grab onto the stick. I carried on with this for a couple of minutes until I realized it was pointless. There was nothing else I could do but run home and ask my papa for help. I still had that last shred of hope that he would find a way to save him. But when I ran into the house and told them what happened, his face said it all. Seeing that expression on his face stripped me of that last shred, and I collapsed onto the floor and bawled like I never had before. It only got worse when Mama came in the room and Papa gave her the news. Her wailing only made my sadness and guilt, yes, guilt, that much worse. At some point that day I began to get an idea in my head that my folks may blame me for Bill's death. They had both told me more than once that my job was to protect my little brother, and I had screwed it up. After crying myself to sleep that night, the next morning I was terrified to leave my room. I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. All kinds of ideas were swirling around in my head. At one point I had even convinced myself that they'd give me away to an orphanage for being such an awful son. It took my folks a few hours to convince me to come out, and I only did when they promised that they weren't mad at me. They didn't stop me from apologizing when I stopped. Sorry. Obama Barack with the 5 says 6 million times the estrogen seems high. 16 million seems high. It's probably more like 200,000 to 300,000 times the estrogen as a normal Whopper restricted trademark. Thanks, Obama. Yeah, I have no idea. I just saw an article about it. It was just quite strange. And hypothetically, it did have like that extent of estrogen or whatever amount of micrograms or grams or milligrams. I don't know how much. Like, my curiosity is say that did exist within one of those Impossible Burgers. Like, what kind of effect, I guess, over the long term, or even just a single ingestion would that have on your hormones? Just out of curiosity. That didn't stop me from apologizing when I saw them. They said it was just a terrible accident, and nobody was to blame. We all broke down after that and held each other and cried for a long time. That scene would be played out a bunch of times over the next few weeks. The thing that made things more painful, perhaps, was the wait for the lake to thaw before we could find Bill's body and bury it. Finally, around the last week of April, it had warmed up enough to retrieve his body from the lake and have the funeral. Mama and me cried most of that day. It wasn't until around the time you were born that the two of us were talking and thinking back to those days that Mama admitted to me that she felt guilty too, since she'd sent us out that morning and told us to hurry. We both came to the conclusion that moment neither of us were truly at fault. It was nothing more than an accident we were helpless to prevent. To tell the truth, on any other February day, that lake would have been frozen 3 feet down and hard as a rock. It just happened it was one of those once-in-a-lifetime days it wasn't. I can't speak for Mama, but that day was when I was finally able to let go of all my guilt once and for all. Well, Junior, that's most of it that I can remember. File that away in your mind somewhere safe, 'cause I ain't telling it ever again. And those were the words that he told me, and I was at a loss for words. I'd never in my life heard my dad be so open about his life and upbringing. I had known he'd been pretty poor, but that was it. In the silence, he drifted off somewhere into his past, now unaware of my presence. Dredging up all of that grief had turned his eyes red and filled them with tears. I decided I'd slip quietly out of the room to leave him alone with his memories. My dad and I had our share of clashes and have often went long periods not speaking to one another, but after hearing that story, I was able to see him in a bit of a more positive light. I realize now, even an old, hard... It says hard ass, and I don't know if I want to say the word hard ass. Even an old, hard... even someone hard as a rock. Okay. I realize now, even someone as hard as a rock like him can hurt deep down. I realize he's as human as the rest of us. We need a mod. What happened? Is everybody getting off the chain? Joel, that voice is amazing. Thank you. I try. Stiff butt. He's that old stiff butt dad. But I also realize that saying dad as hard as a rock is probably gonna still get just as many comments. How long am I streaming for? Well, we got 4 more stories to go, so however long that took, which was about close to an hour, I would say we got another hour to go or so. Probably. Am I smoking a bowl, young man? No, I'm just sucking a water. Taking a long water suck. Taking a suck of me water. Just having a suck. Anybody here having a suck? Drink counter, yeah. Well, you can't see. I've got like 3 drinks here. I've got my tea, my water, and I had like sort of a weird protein drink. What mic am I using? So my streaming mic is an AKG C214. That's It's an XLR mic that goes into a mixer, which my mixer is a Zoom mixer with 2 ports, UAC2, USB 3.0 if that matters to anybody. But for my recording mic, I use an H4n. And yeah, after I record, I remove background noise with good old Audacity and edited everything in Sony Vegas. Which is funny because, you know, if you guys had seen the most recent documentary, the Jill Dando documentary, which talk about a long process from whenever I'm pretty sure we recorded that whole documentary during a stream back in the summertime, and then it finally came out here, which is fine with me because I think it turned out really, really great thanks to Robin. But Robin always gives me shiz for using Sony Vegas, which is funny. Makiti Bowcut with the 10. Are those the Norwegian kroners? Thank you for the crone bone. Do I smoke cigarettes? I do not. I mean, once in a while, if I'm like out and about with friends, having a drink, having a suck a drink. 3.0. Can you believe it, Jacob? Yeah, I'll have like a cigarette with alcohol or something like that, but I'm not really a fan. Like, I like the sort of initial buzz that a cigarette gives me and the sort of relative activity that sucking on a cigarette gives you. But I hate how cigarettes make everything on me just stink. It makes my beard stink, it makes my fingers stink, it makes my breath stink. It makes my clothes stink. It sticks with you. You gotta wash your shit. Like, and I've worked with people at the hospital who like go out on their smoke breaks, and they come back and they spritz themselves down with all the possible like non-stinkable stuff, all the perfumes and shit, and literally it just smells like you lit up a cigarette and sprayed it with perfume, because it's like 2 distinct stinks. 2 distinct stinks. Stunk, a stunk. Butts in your mouth. Yeah, I know. Cigarette ass. Am I insinuating with the sucking? How old am I? I'm 29. Joel's sauce with the beard. Yeah, I need my Joel's juice to get rid of the smoking stink. Well, it's just frustrating because it's just like nicotine is what makes you addicted to cigarettes, I mean, that's pretty common science now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's other sort of, psychological influences as well. But like, why the fuck did they have to put nicotine in like the worst possible thing ever? Just like an arsenic-filled, like, burning stick. Just like, there's so much disgusting shit in a cigarette that's like just slowly giving people lung cancer. Even my brother, he was telling me he recently stopped smoking cigarettes, and ever since I've known him, he's smoked cigarettes. Both my brothers have, and it was just like every time I'd see him, he's always like, packing a, where you smack the pack onto your hand to like pack the cigarettes and stuff. Ever since I've known him, he's always been smoking, and he recently stopped. And then he told me that, he's starting to like, he thinks he may have developed some sort of lesion in his lung because he can kind of like feel a really strange, like, sharp pain. But hopefully it's like just a manifestation of like your body, because after you like stop smoking for even a day, the progression in which your body sort of like reverses things is very, very quick. As far as like the cilia in your lungs after 24 hours will stick back up. That's why people always like start hacking up a bunch of like mucus and stuff, because it's like the cilia that actually little fibers deep in your lungs that help to move mucus out of your lungs and that kind of thing, or at least create a sensation to cause you to cough. But whenever you smoke, that all like sits down, and then the mucus and the inflammation, the mucus that is down there just kind of like sits still, and it's gross. Probably contributing to a lot of people's like bronchitis and infections and all that kind of stuff. Smoking sucks. Don't smoke. Like, Literally, fuck that shit. Like, just, I mean, I literally wouldn't. If you want nicotine, just chew a gum, or I don't even know. And then the fact that, like, vaping has been illegalized or stuff like that in certain places as a nice, relatively, who knows how safe, because you can get popcorn lung from that shit too, but an alternative, you know, to transitioning off of cigarettes, and then just suddenly, it really is death sticks. It's all just death sticks. Ron with the 15 buckaroonies says, love your channel. Thanks for doing what you do. You're my favorite. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for the 15. That's very generous of you. Thank you. Thank you. Hugs and kisses. Hugs and kisses. Weed shrinks cancer cells. Yeah, I've heard things like that. I don't really know exactly the science behind it, but I've heard marijuana has a lot of quite miraculous effects. Smoking is forbidden. You guys probably secretly want me to smoke so that I have a super deep voice. Just this past month, I stumbled into a crazy scene that I thought your listeners would like to hear about. That's what these recordings would sound like if I was a smoker. Like shit. And then I would die. I would die within like a year, and you guys would be sad, because then what are you gonna fall asleep to? All my old content, maybe. Joel's voice shrinks cancer cells. This is true. Come closer so I can speak. I'd like to speak to the manager of your cancer cells. The CEO of your body. Just this past month, I stumbled into a crazy scene I thought your listeners would like to hear about. The end of last year, my company moved me to one of their smaller satellite offices in Minnesota. Before moving here, I'd been working out at the Atlanta branch since I started with the company. I've been a southern boy from birth, and me and the cold never got along. As you can imagine, the second I stepped out of the airport, I was freezing my tail off. I couldn't believe anyone wanted to be outside in this weather and any longer than they had to be. When I arrived at the tail end of winter last year and was confronted with hordes of men with facial hair that had icicles hanging from it, and they acted like it was no big deal, I thought I'd been transferred to Siberia by mistake. The morning this went down was November 11th. It was the coldest day we had so far, and it just happened to be the day my car wouldn't start. The office was only located about 1.5 miles from my apartment, so I could walk it relatively fast. If I was still in Atlanta, the journey would have been no problem, but this was Minnesota and the temperature was well below freezing. Before I set off, I called the police. Oops, not the police. Joel's name is Greta. I'm changing my name to Greta. I'm starting a campaign against cigarettes. We must back these cigarettes into a wall. Before I set off, I called the office and asked if anyone was there who could pick me up, but there wasn't. I told them my predicament, and they nonchalant. Fuck, this music was like blowing my ears out. Holy shit. Sorry. It's weird though, because when I got the music on, I feel like I'm kind of like honed in like streamer mode, you know, in like the atmosphere of the fucking stories and shit. And then the second I take it off, I feel like I kind of like pull myself out of it, which, I mean, I can still read and it's no big deal. It's just, I like to be immersed too. I told them my predicament and they nonchalantly suggested I just walk since it was a warm day. I couldn't speak for a moment. Warm, I thought? Warm as 80 degrees. Arguing would have been pointless, so I hung up and prepared for a miserable walk to work. Once I was sure I had enough layers on, I headed out the door. I could only imagine how stupid I must have looked to the natives, wrapped up like a mummy from head to toe, but by God, I was freezing. Really, all I could do was put my head down and embrace the suck, and that's what I did. I had gotten about half a mile into my trip when I glanced over to a parking lot just to the right of me and noticed a bundle of clothes at the corner of an abandoned business. My curiosity got the best of me, and I walked over to see what it was. I was a few feet away before I realized it was a person. Then I got scared. I've never seen a dead body before, and this person likely was in this cold. Just to be sure, I timidly approached the body and rolled it over. I was shocked to see it was a woman, and she had been beaten badly about the head and face. I touched her skin, and as I feared, she was ice cold. Maybe because of what I'd seen on hundreds of movies and TV shows, I thoughtlessly checked her pulse. Amazingly, there was one. It was very faint, but it was there. I checked again just to be sure, and I was right. I quickly pulled my phone out and called 911. I assumed because we were so close to the police station, they were able to respond so fast. The paramedics scooped her up and took off, leaving me to speak to the police. After I explained the situation, they were kind enough to drop me off at the office. I was about an hour late, but after I told everyone what happened, I became the hero of the office. Even though all the attention embarrassed me a little, it did feel good to have everyone's respect. When you're the new guy and nobody knows you, that takes a while to achieve. Before I walked out of the office that afternoon, I called the hospital to see how the woman was doing. It took a few minutes to get a hold of a person that knew what I was talking about, but when I had, I found out that she had survived and was doing well. Even the nurse I spoke to was amazed that she pulled through. She told me that she sees a handful of exposure cases every year, and the overwhelming majority, as bad off as her, didn't survive. Later in the same week, she became conscious enough to tell the police how she ended up in that parking lot. She claimed that she had been waiting for a friend and she had been attacked from behind. But when I spoke to one of the officers involved with the case, he told me he believed she had been with a customer in his car, and he had beaten her up and kicked her out of the car, probably leaving her for dead. She had one or two arrests. She had one or two arrests previously in her past, so he believed it to be most likely the same scenario. All of this was off the record, of course, like I was a reporter or something. Personally, I don't care how the poor woman makes ends meet. I'm just happy she's alive, and I hope she makes a full recovery in time to get back to her family for the holidays. Attacked from behind. Jesus Christ. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, embrace the suck. Attacked from behind. What's this guy trying to say? Valerie Hernandez with the 5 says, "Hey, I missed you. Best narrator by far, and super cool that you love CrossFit." Hey, thanks, Valerie. Yeah, it's just like one of those things where it's like I was probably about 24, and I had a kind of a history of working out from like playing football and shit like that, and was familiar with Olympic lifts and yada yada yada. And I just needed something to try and stay in shape because I had done a lot of like trail running as my primary like exercise, but during the winter time that kind of would die, and you know the feeling when you're just like, holy shit, I haven't worked out in XYZ amount of time, and it's a long time. And my friend had worked at the gym, and he was like, dude, try CrossFit classes. And after doing it, it's just like it kicks my butt every time, and it's really, really nice to just be able to show up and have someone tell you exactly what you need to do within an hour-long, time frame, and there's other people in the class you can kind of become familiar with and stuff and be friends. So I'm happy I joined just because it's kind of keeps things focused, I guess you could say, and keep me in shape, whereas I have friends that sort of just stop caring, even though they were in substantially better shape than me years and years ago. and now they're not because, you know, it is what it is. So I definitely would suggest it for people if they're looking for something that's just nice and sort of like, what do you call it, structured. So, you bet I'm fit and handsome. Oh yeah, handsome and fit. I fit into a trunk perfectly. Okay. Favorite colors, go. I like seafoam green. Everything's better when seafoam green is in fashion. Red, black, and purple, huh? That's a interesting mix of colors. Your mustached kitty is staring at you. Sober for 5 months, heck yeah. There you go. Keep it up. Keep it up. If you're happy and you know it, clap your butt. Clap your cheeks. Alright, so story number 5. The following is an account of a terrified child and how he learned to overcome the trauma that had caused it as an adult. Mom and Dad had to go out of town for a reason I don't exactly remember now, and they left me with me. Fuck. How beginner-friendly is CrossFit? Well, you know, I would say it is beginner-friendly in the fact that, at least at my gym, there's a lot of new people that start there, and the coaches are willing to see, you know, what your capabilities are before they throw you into things. I would say the men probably struggle the most with that because they all get a little prideful and they want to like be doing exercises at the prescribed weights that, you know, for the workouts that other guys are doing who've been doing it for years or some shit. When in reality, it's much more important to get your form down and with pretty much every exercise before you try to like really challenge yourself. But I think, you know, people who have a history of, you know, whether it's Olympic weightlifting or some sort of sport or whatever, or, you know, especially gymnastics. Like my gymnastics movements are so, you know, that's a lot of that in CrossFit, and mine are so shitty. Please turn the music down. I can do that, yes. Sorry about that. But yeah, if you have a history of gymnastics, that's like super helpful. If you have a history of weightlifting, that's also helpful, because there's really no substitute, I would say, for just being strong. Because like once you're strong, it's like things move easy, and then your cardio just catches up to where it needs to be. But I don't know. The annoying thing with CrossFit to me is that like, at least at my gym, they don't put like a huge focus on getting stronger. Which, like I said, if you have a 400-pound squat or heavy lift or something like that, the workouts go by even easier because it's just effortless. But especially for the amount of reps you do. But yeah, the one biggest thing I would say is we don't really have like a lot of injuries at the gym at all, I would say. You know, which a lot, you know, you get on Reddit and there's a bunch of like neckbeards on there just like CrossFit's for fucking idiots who don't have good form. But it's like haven't stepped a foot in the gym in like 10 years or something like that, yet they're passing all these like safety judgments and stuff like that. But I mean, these are like institutions who benefit from people actually surviving workouts and stuff, so they're not going to thrust you into something that you're going to get yourself hurt in. And obviously you know your body much better than everyone else, so it's not like some boot camp that you're going to that you, or like, you know, Navy SEALs, you're going to die or some shit. So you feel your way through it, and it's really just becomes your own personal passion, like to the extent in which you want to like push yourself. And or if you're in a certain amount of shape and you just want to maintain that, I would say CrossFit's great for that, because you do kind of hit a plateau eventually and you kind of have to set your own personal goals. Minami with the 2 says, hey, advice on what to focus on more on T's Hesse? Wait, what? Hey, advice on what to focus more on What is that? I don't know what those are. T's, Hesse, ATI. Oh, for nursing. Oh, for the nursing tests. You know, okay, what is the difference between the ATI T6 and Hesse A2 tests? When you're planning entering nursing school, you'll be required to take an entrance exam. Many nursing schools around the country are starting to require formal nursing school entrance exam. When it comes to those entrance exams, some schools choose to require the TEA S6, while other schools require the HESI A2 exam. Yeah, because we didn't have an entry exam for my school. It was just like you applied and got into the program, and then it was kind of competitive from that part. Both, yeah. If you gymnastics, I'm always jealous of people that did gymnastics because it's like, I don't know, it's a little weird of a sport to do. You know, you probably, like, for me, I always felt weird doing a sport like that when you're a young kid because it's just like seems strange. But man, all the freaking gymnastic people I know now are just like jacked and ripped, and I'm like, God, they look good. Gymnastics makes you sexy AF. The TEAS exam is measured, but blah, blah, blah. You know, I really can't say that I can give good advice on that, on what to focus on, because, yeah, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. I guess, yeah, if there's some possible way you can hit both equally, I mean, unless, you know, the school specifically says what exam they do. Jamie loved gymnastics, and she's flexible. Also, is the you don't want to be ripped, just bendy? Yeah, I think dance is a great place to be bendy. Can I do a split? Fuck no, I cannot do a split. I'm pretty flexible, but not that flexible. You want to see Joel in gymnast attire? It's so crazy. I was watching like the what was I watching? Like the Olympic something or whatever for like indoor. Maybe it was winter or maybe spring. I don't know what, the Summer Olympics or some shit. And dude, guy, it was this dude. He was freaking ripped, just so jacked, like so big, so ripped, just such control of your body. Like, it's so impressive to me. That's like the elite kind of fitness you just don't really see anywhere else in the world. To be able to like hang on those rings and do the iron cross stuff. And then it was really funny because he was wearing like a headband the entire time and just looked really silly, but at the same time like just a huge badass. Pilates is good for dancers. Oh yeah. Yeah, dancers are... Joel is a flex e-boy. I'm a flex e-boy. What's my body weight? It was so weird, like in the course of the past, like I want to say 2 months or so, I went from like 185 to like literally close to like 210. It's kind of scary. I mean, like, and the weird part is I don't really look a whole lot different, but like I just, I've been hitting the gym like 5 days a week more frequently and just eating a fuck ton of everything. And I definitely could benefit to lean down quite a bit, but I don't know, my body just like really responded very quickly to that. And I was doing a lot more strength progression when it came to the bench press, because I had not really done the bench press in a while. Like my squat was big, and I just like recently hit like a really heavy power clean and stuff like that. But my bench press was always like kind of shitty because I was always like kind of small as far as the bench press goes, but I always try to keep up with people that were up there, which was just not a good idea because it wasn't very focused on myself. And so recently I was just doing this was what's crazy. I was doing a 12-week program, which is 3 months, once a week. And then, it took, I would say, 15 minutes out of my day to do, or less. And, I started off at benching my max, which, compared to other people's is not very big, but it was like 235. And within that 12-week program of like a linear progression of once a week. I went from, maxing 235 to then at the end of the 12 weeks maxing 265, which was pretty crazy, like to make a 30-pound jump, you know what I mean, in that period of time. So I'm pretty stoked to like go back to it again, this tomorrow essentially, and just over the 12. I would love, it'd be sick, like in a year to go from 235 to 300. And I ain't on any gear or anything. People always say, like, what gear are you on? Which is like steroids, which I would never do steroids. Steroids seems like a terrible idea. Alright, so let's keep rolling along. Sorry. Pretty much video games and fitness bullshit is like stuff that always kind of like kind of captivates me briefly. Oh, Mr. Ghoulies working out right now. Hell yeah, get them gains. Get them gains, son. Do you just bench or work on torso? I mean, as far as the bench stuff goes, I don't really do any auxiliary stuff with it other than like what kind of like gets brought up in workouts and stuff. How tall am I? I'm about 5'10", I would say. And it was kind of interesting too, is like when I started working out, like I got taller, which was really strange. I didn't expect that, but I don't know if your body just kind of like, the muscles sort of like pull your body more erect. You only work out your almond tofu bubbies. Number 15. You're a tall alien girl, and I'm an astronaut. We may meet in space one day. Evil Adam 23 with the 250. 350. The 250. Thanks for lulling me into nightmares this year. You are welcome. You have better posture. That might be the case. Russian twist. They're good warm-up for benching. Oh, interesting. That's like with the weighted medicine ball kind of thing. One thing that he's 6'9". That'd be hilarious and awkward at the same time. Do you ever see GHDs? They're kind of like you're hanging off of something and you're extending. It's almost like a hamstring activation type thing, like posterior chain, and I hear those are great for kind of getting yourself ready for any sort of Olympic weightlifting or whatever. Mom and Dad had to go out for shit. Bad start. My voice pulls you erect. That's good. Mom and Dad had to go out of town for a reason I don't exactly remember now, and they left with my dad's mom, Granny Pearson. Granny P, as she was called, lived on a farm way out in the middle of nowhere in Kansas. My dad and his two sisters had grown up on the farm, and I spent most of my first 7 years of my life there myself. It was some point between January and February when this would happen. I remember a really bad ice storm had just blown through the area. The loud bang coming from the trees snapping under the weight of all the ice made me jump out of my skin a few times before I got used to it. There was just Granny P and I around then. Grandpa P had just died before I was born, and this left Granny P the only person living on the farm full time. She was a big woman. Not fat, really. Stocky more than anything, but a very kind woman. I would often go to her after my mom had told me I couldn't have something, and she would usually give it to me. When my mother told me I'd be staying with her for a few days, I was ecstatic. I got dropped off early on Friday morning, and the plan was for me to stay until Sunday afternoon. Granny P made us breakfast, and then we spent the rest of the day watching TV and playing games. After supper, we did more of the same until bedtime. The bed was made for me in my dad's old room, and she kissed me goodnight on my forehead. The next morning, I woke up really cold, and the sun was already up, which was weird. Although she never ran the Dearborn... Wait, what? This is weird, the Dearborn. Carolyn, why'd you not get notified? Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like for even people who hit that like notification bell to be alerted, like aren't always alerted about streams. My best advice would, if you could follow me on either Instagram or Twitter. Twitter's the most like commonly like the quickest way to get notified of stuff because it's just the easiest to post on, like fastest because you just type and you're done. Also, if you join the Discord, which everything is linked down below if you want to go follow it or join it, the Discord also does notifications as well. You want me to be your Granny P? Kiss you on your forehead, my stocky body. What is this? Dearborn Heaters. What the fuck is that? Let's see. Is it like a... Oh, I see. It's like one of those sort of individual heater units. Although she never ran the Dearborn heaters at night, Granny P was always up before me, turning them on to make the house warm and cooking breakfast. She would allow me to stay in bed until the food was ready and wake me up when it was time to eat. This morning, none of that had happened. My curiosity overtook me and I ran down the hall to her room. When I opened the door, I could see she was still in bed, so I jumped onto it to wake her up. I pushed on her several times, but she didn't move. I did it a few more times and still nothing. I wasn't sure what to do. I was hungry and very cold, and I did the only thing I could think of and crawled under the covers with her, but I couldn't get any warmer. My 7-year-old mind couldn't grasp what was happening, but I knew things weren't right somehow. I'd soon give up where I was at and go put my coat on, then eventually every piece of clothing I had. The shivering had stopped, but I was still very uncomfortable. You could see your breath every time you exhaled, but I was helpless to do anything to fix it. Since I couldn't do anything about the cold, I went into the kitchen to search for something to eat. At my age, I didn't know how to cook, but I'd watched my mom make PB&Js enough I thought I could do it myself. I dug through the cabinets for several minutes before I came across an old jar of peanut butter, but no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find any jelly, so I did the best I could with what I had. I made 3 peanut butter sandwiches and poured myself a glass of milk. I took the sandwiches and milk to the living room and watched cartoons. In between bites, I look over at the Dearborn heater trying to figure out how it worked, but I just couldn't. When I finished my sandwiches, I went back into Granny's bedroom to try again and wake her up. I was hoping she had been more tired than usual, but was now rested and ready to get up. When I pushed on her this time, her body moved very stiffly like she was frozen. She still wasn't waking up, and the way her body moved made me suspicious that something may be wrong with her. Since my parents had taught me how to dial 911 if there was an emergency, I picked up the phone and dialed it, but for some reason, likely due to damaged lines because of the ice storm, the phone didn't work. This was when I was finally forced to acknowledge that I may be in trouble. I knew something was wrong with my granny, and it was only going to get colder when the sun went down. Yes, I had a noof. Yes, I had a noof. Well, this is already sad as fuck. I feel like all these stories are so sad. I mean, it's fine, but... And I guess, you know, the general concept of super sad crap is, you know... Jensen, Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Hey, KFC man with the $5 says, how's it going? Welcome, my friend, welcome. He's KFC man, he's Taco Bell man, he's just all the let's sad. You're waiting for the story to get sexy. I hope not. Is that the night theme? I'm just trying to figure out like what later, like what stories to start off with, because if people are too sad, they might not even want to listen. I'm too sad to listen. Secure Team 10 rings true to me, just like our Buttersocks friend. Secure Team 10, I follow his channel from time to time. You know, I like to watch alien shit or whatever. And, oh, we're almost at 500 viewers, by the way. But, like, Secure Team 10 had, like, a really cryptic, Twitter status. I'm gonna go look him up. And it was just basically saying, like, that they were, like, targeting him. Or somebody was gonna, like, essentially defame him. I don't know, it was very dramatic, you know what I mean? Like, obviously I have no idea what the situation... Oh yeah, this one. So it was back on December 24th. Do not believe everything you hear. I have been set up recently in an attempt to ruin my reputation, and I will explain more in a coming video. This is an attack on truth seekers. And then it says, then the next tweet on December 28th, I just want to go back to work. I'll let the lawyers handle the rest. I'm ready to talk about aliens and UFOs again. I know that's what you guys want to. So I'm really excited about this documentary I've been working on these past months, and we'll have a small teaser. Oh. Well, that changed really quickly. It went from, like, some defamatory shit or whatever, like we were going down a rabbit hole, to, like, everything's normal again. Dude, what if they killed Secure Team 10, dude? And freaking cloned them. That's my theory. Jensen, this happened to me when my stepsis got stuck under the bed. For a little bit of backstory, I'm an 18-year-old male, and this happened like 20 minutes ago. I'm still shaking from the knees. Cryptic versus dramatic. No, that's a great point. A lot of YouTubers are quite dramatic. It sounded pretty cryptic initially, but then I think it may have just been sort of... It almost sounds defensive in a way, you know, but at the same time, the fact that he can't outright say something... who knows? Who freaking knows? But I mean, like, I don't know why they would take down a channel or something related to alien stuff. Like, I feel like they've been slowly disclosing alien shit or interdimensional being stuff or just all that kind of stuff for like a long time, and who knows? I can't, I can't figure it all out, you know what I mean? Asherella with the 5 says, last day of being a back home baller of the 2019 Xmas season for me, going to hang with my mom until she goes to bed. Hope you had a great holiday. Thank you, Asherella. What's a back home baller? That sounds kind of dope. Miss Finessery. Says, clones walk the earth with us. I wouldn't be surprised. Interdimensional ass probers. That's my basketball team name. Mr. Gooley with the 2 says, Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, or Five Guys? Shoot. Well, I do like McDonald's fries. I do like Burger King's fries the most, I guess. Wendy's fries kind of suck. Five Guys fries are like pretty greasy to the point where it's a little bit cumbersome along with their burgers, though they are... Oh man, it's been a while since I had them. They're pretty good. Burger King burgers are pretty good. I would definitely say Wendy's. It's between Wendy's burgers and Five Guys burgers. And Burger King has the best fries, I would say, because they're like the crispy, saltiest. Maybe it's the oil they used. Favorite sauce? Oh shit. I guess Boom Boom sauce, baby. Silent Age Films. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Arby's curly fries. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Them curly fries. It's kind of funny. We had an Arby's in our town that literally has had people crash into it. It's like, oh, we hit 500. Woo! Woo! We hit 500 people. There's a Arby's in our town that has had, like, over the years, so many people crash into it, which I always thought was funny. It's like a cursed Arby's. But it's at, like, a really weird spot. Extra curly. Smash fries from Smash Burgers are the best, hands down. Yeah, Joel inhales KFC on the daily. I was kind of disappointed in my KFC. I made a funny post about it, but I probably should have got like something specific instead of like 16 pieces of chicken. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, that I could eat a whole bucket, because that didn't turn out well. Yes, I had enough food to make it until Sunday, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stand up to the cold. Not to mention Granny was sick and needed help from an adult. There wasn't anything I could think of to do, so I went back to watching TV. On the way, I went into my room and took one of the quilts from my bed and put it on my Granny. I thought she was stiff because she was cold like me, and the blanket may keep her warm while she was sick. As the hours passed, I sat occasionally shivering in front of the screen and crying. I'd never been so scared before, and help was still so far away. A bang made me jerk awake. I wasn't sure how long I'd been asleep, but didn't see any sunlight coming in the windows any longer. My first thought was that Granny was feeling better and getting up to make supper. However, when I looked down the hall to the kitchen, the lights weren't on. I knew you couldn't cook in the dark, and I didn't hear anything being moved around. Fear caused me to call out for Granny, but I received no reply. Then the banging happened again. However, this time it was followed by a familiar voice saying hello. I knew right away that it was my mom, and I ran towards the back door. Mom and Dad came walking through the door a moment later. I remember wrapping my arms around my mother's leg and starting to cry for joy. My dad asked me where Granny was, and I told him that she was sick in bed. A confused look came across his face, and he went into her room only to return a moment later. The look on his face was one I'd never seen before. He called my mom over to him and whispered something I couldn't hear. She put her hand on my dad's head and said something, then walked over to me and picked me up and held me. I wasn't sure what was going on, but the warmth of my mother's body felt amazing. She quietly asked me if I was okay, and I answered yes. Then she carried me into the living room and sat me on the couch. She walked over and did something to the heater, and voila, it was roaring with heat. It was like she'd done an amazing magic trick at that moment. She returned to the couch and sat with me while we watched TV, and she messed with my hair like she often did. My dad had stayed at the back of the house talking to somebody on the phone, and about an hour later I heard him talking to a couple of other men. And the men didn't stay very long, and Dad joined us in the living room not long after they left. We loaded up and left the farm a few minutes later. This would be my last visit for another 25 years. The last 12 hours had been a roller coaster ride of emotions. Something deep down told me not to ask about Granny P, and nothing was said about her until the following morning when Dad and Mom explained that she had died in her sleep. I was just beginning to grasp the concept of death. When they said I'd never see her again, I started crying. Because of what had gone down, I was torn between the thought of losing her and the idea that it may have happened to me if they hadn't shown up early. It wasn't until I got a little older that the nightmares began. The image of Granny P's frozen face and stiff body terrified me for many years to come, as did the terror of freezing to death alone with her dead body. It was something I tried to suppress and deal with in my own way. Not until I met my wonderful wife and she witnessed the night terrors. I was experiencing that I was convinced to seek help. Several years of counseling would follow until I was able to face my fears head-on and return to the house. My aunt had been living there with her children. Clean the evidence. Jesus. 25 years, that is a long time. My aunt had been living there with her children for a few years, but it had been sitting abandoned for at least 5. The silence and smell of the old house brought back everything. Had this been 10 years before, I probably would have crumbled from a panic attack, but I learned how to handle my emotions since then. Soon my memory filled with all the happy events I'd experienced. Each object I saw reminded me of something wonderful I'd associated with it. I went away from the farm that day, greatly surprised and pleased. An experience I'd expected to be traumatic turned out to be the exact opposite. Since that day, I've been out to the old house several times and hadn't had any problems. Now that I've become free of the burden I carried around for so long related to her, I'm able to remember all the good memories I have of Granny P. And that is perhaps the best thing I've gotten out of all the treatment I've received. Mr. Gooley with the 2 buckaroonies says, are nuts meat? If so, do vegetarians eat them? I don't think so. I don't think they is meat. I wonder if vegans can go down on a man's meat. Oh my god. They really did that, a super chat. You guys rock. Thanks for being... Spartan just roundhouse kicked that like button. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Brotherin. Do you think aliens made the food pyramid? Now that's a good question. Alright, so we're at the second to last story. This one seems to be a bit shorter. That one too. Interesting. Hell yeah, brother. Lauren, you are an alien? Is that confirmed? Where are you from in this big, beautiful galaxy? I've taken my yearly journey to the woods to hunt since I was 14. Last year started just as every other one before had, but it would end much earlier and in a very different way than usual. Despite the weather being too warm for hunting, I was out at dawn, on opening day like always. As the season drags on, the deer get more skittish, so starting as early as you can increase your chances. On the lease, I've been hunting on the lease. A hunting lease? Is that a thing? A hunting lease? What's with all the pornographic references? It's a scary story channel. Yeah, that's a great question, Cement Shoes. But we are who we are, I suppose. And I welcome all my buttery, soccery children. On the lease I've been hunting on for... Isn't it a lease? Is that a thing? Oh, the license. Okay, so... Wait. It's just weird. Nisha Chowdhury with a 10 says, have a happy new year. Looking forward to more readings in 2020. Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm really hoping 2020 is the year, baby. 2020 is the year. Thank you for the 10. And Adriana Marquez with the 2 says, love listening to your stories. Thank you, Adriana. It is the voice. Buttery nut squash. Oh boy. So if nuts don't have seeds, are they fruit? Wait, what? Wait, what? What are you asking? I'm so confused. Hey, Holly, welcome, welcome. Yeah, maybe the... Oh, maybe you meant to type land. On the land I've been hunting on for the past 7 years, I had a small handful of preferred spots, and this is where I was heading. This spot was a tree stand setting roughly 30 feet high in an old oak that looked out across one of 3 feet... What the fuck? Sorry, that was like a series of words that my mouth could not keep up with. This spot was a tree stand setting roughly 30 feet high in an old oak that looked out across one of 3 feed plots. I'd had good luck there more than once and hoped to have it again. The drive out to the stand took about 15 minutes from my cabin, so I left an hour before dawn. I wanted to be on the stand just as the first bit of light broke. As usual, I parked my four-wheeler about 50 yards away and walked the rest of the way in. I'm not sure if it makes any real difference, but not making a bunch of noise right next to where I'd be hunting seems like a wise idea, so it's a practice I try to remember to do each time I hunt. Although I'd been up over an hour and had a couple of cups of coffee, I was probably a little groggy. I've never been a mornings type of guy, and once I retired, I've gotten up when I woke up, no certain time. So I slung my rifle onto my back and began to climb. About 3 steps from the top, with the seat in sight, one of my feet slipped from the ladder and I fell about 25 feet onto my back. Somehow my rifle ended up next to me rather than under. There was no pain at first, so I figured I'd just get up and dust myself off. However, I discovered very quickly that at least one, if not both legs, were broken. As I sat up to examine my legs, pain began shooting through my back and body. It appeared then that in addition to broken legs, I had a major back injury. My usual high pain tolerance was letting me down, and the adrenaline was beginning to wear off. I knew in a matter of minutes I was going to be screaming in pain. I began feeling for my phone and soon found it in my chest pocket. Luckily, I didn't land on my chest right. Being out in the middle of nowhere didn't necessarily mean there wouldn't be any cell service. In my neck of the woods, cell towers are more common than trees. I dialed 911 and waited, but the call dropped. The pain was making me very nauseous, and I was having a hard time concentrating. It took me a moment to realize I was going to need to move if I had a chance of getting help. I couldn't think of any other way, so I gritted my teeth and rolled over onto my stomach. The pain very nearly caused me to pass out, but the stars soon passed, and I began pulling myself forward with my arms. I made it around 15 yards before I was forced to take a break. Once I had pulled myself together, I tried to call 911 again, but it was a no-go. I looked around and noticed I was still under the trees, but there was a clearing not far away. I gritted my teeth again and pulled myself toward it. I had to take a couple of breaks, but eventually I was in the open. I crossed my fingers and pressed send. The waiting was agonizing, but it finally began ringing and I was connected to a dispatcher. The pain made the wait for help to... What? What? I'm so confused. Rosario Magana, or Mañana, I don't know. With the 5s, thank you so much, Rosario. Love your videos, your voice is amazing. Thank you. Gracios. 911 just hung up on this dude. 911, what's your emergency? Psych, peace. Eat crap, bro. Later. Mistake number 33. That's not actually too bad. The truth about cannibalism is that you eventually run out of friends. Jensen says, remember guys, Joel has a Patreon where for only 45 shekels a month, you can hear him breathe deeply into a mic and cry. That's a top tier donation right there. Not many people have been brave enough to Well, or perhaps it's sold out, I don't remember. Tonight I'm in for a treat. Tonight you'll get to fall asleep to my voice. Don't freak out when you open your eyes and I'm standing at your bedside. Like a gray alien. That sounds a bit spooky. Do you ever, I feel like those gray alien stories are always like borderline demonic, you know what I mean? Like in the way the stories present themselves. With like sleep paralysis and things of that nature. The wait was agonizing, but it finally began ringing and I was connected to a dispatcher. The pain made the wait for help to arrive seem even longer, but because of my location and clear directions, they made it to me within 30 minutes. As I laid there, I watched the sun rise, thinking of how beautiful a scene it was to me. Shit. As I laid there, I watched the sun rise, thinking how beautiful a scene it was to see. I only wished it was under better circumstances. By the time I was released from the hospital a few days later, I would have 2 broken legs, a broken back which really amounted to 3 smashed vertebrae, and a mild... By the time I was released from the hospital a few days later, I would have 2 broken legs, a back. By the time I was released from the hospital a few days later, I would have 2 broken legs and a broken back, which really was crushed vertebrae. The legs would just have to heal with time, but with my back, I've had to have a couple of those vertebrae fused. The surgery was done just a few months before this year's hunting season started, and you can be sure I was there, waiting for the sun to rise on the first morning. One thing has changed, however. For the time being, I'll be hunting from a blind on the ground. There's no way I'm going to go another year with an empty freezer. You have a Siamese kitty. No potty training for me, sucker. You don't have to potty train a Siamese kitty? You kept waking up at 3:33 a.m. Oh my lord. Oh my lord, that sounds scary. Alright guys, last story of the night. Once again, thanks for being here. Start thinking of some funny things we can say at the end of the video. I'll be most likely include whatever you think of. Emmy, what's up? Welcome back. With the $5 says, finally I made it. I'm so happy to catch your stream. I'm happy you're here. Thank you for the 5 buckaroonies. Another bong hit. Let's go. Let's read. It's just water. I'm just having a bit of a suck. Alright. Fashion, I love you too. Let's go. Let's go! I'm not sure how common the trope of the guy who went to the store to get some cigarettes and never came back is in today's virulent anti-smoking world. However, in my youth, it was still alive and well. Until an incident like this occurred to a friend of mine, I'd always thought it was an excuse mothers used to explain to the children why their father had left them. To my surprise, when I was a junior in high school, I discovered how true this excuse really was. My friend's dad had been working undercover for the local police department for as long as I'd ever known. Although he would often go extended periods of time without being in contact with his family, they almost always knew he was working a case and would return when he'd completed it. Then one morning, he was just gone. It was a cold and quiet winter day, the kind most folks don't go out in, but he had insisted he was out of cigarettes and would be right back once he'd gotten them. He'd just returned home from a case that had kept him away for over 4 months, and his family was desperate to spend quality time with him. From all appearances, he'd planned to return, leaving his badge and gun behind. He'd simply thrown on a light coat and drove away into the unknown. The investigation to find him was very hot for a while, but would eventually fizzle out. A lot of important questions were going unanswered, mainly from the side of the police. Joel Juice. Coming to a Unimart near you. A lot of important questions were going unanswered, mainly from the side of the police department. His wife was stonewalled at every turn, especially when it came to the nature of his cases. The department would only say that his jobs were wide and varied. After not hearing anything new and not getting the answer she wanted, for nearly 2 years his wife hired a private investigator who used to be a local officer, hoping he'd have an easier time getting the information she wasn't. He agreed to take the case, but she went almost 3 months without hearing from him. Just when she was starting to think she'd been scammed by the man, she received a very important phone call. The private investigator called her down to his office and gave her all she'd been looking for, and so much more. It turned out he'd certainly been earning all his money. Almost an entire month after he'd begun the investigation, he discovered that her husband had been working undercover in the state and sometime national drug trade on and off for 15 years. His most recent case prior to his death was undercover in a local meth cooking and trafficking group that had ties all the way to Mexico. When the investigation wrapped up and arrests were made, he went back home. Unfortunately, it turned out that a couple of the people involved in the trafficking had to be cut loose due to some technicality, and they figured out her husband was an undercover. They discussed this with their connections in Mexico, and said connections demanded they ended him. Generally, in the States, traffickers don't go after cops. It's always been kind of an unspoken rule, but no such belief is held across the border in order to maintain a good working relationship. They agreed. It took a short time for them to find the officer and where he lived. Then one cold and quiet winter morning, they caught him on a trip to the store. All this information was unknown to the police until around a year after her husband's disappearance. A jailhouse snitch came forth with a story he had overheard and wanted to trade it for a deal on his case. Once they heard it, he was given the deal. Now that they had the information and some names, the department moved forward by planting another undercover in the organization. Considering what had happened in the past, the police knew the suspects would be very leery, so the officer had to take his time gaining their confidence. He did just what he needed to do and eventually compiled all the proof required to end the trafficking and convict the murderers of her husband. The public... Shit. P.I. Hey, oh my gosh. Jamie with the 20 buckaroonies says, Happy New Decade. May all your farts smell like freshly buttered socks and pizza. Tickle my pickle. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. Yeah, this is crazy. We've reached a new decade. 2020. I remember when I was younger, like 2020 to me sounded like futuristic. And now we are here in the future where butter socks and full-grown pizzas walk amongst us. Oh shit. Oh, well, my roommate started a shower, so that'll take a few minutes here. Why don't we just chat a little bit, my friends? Oh, 2020 is the future. If Joel was underage, you call him Jailbait Joel. Yeah, it's funny. I remember there was like a... I'm always curious about like streamers that are... Like, can you stream and be like under 18? Is that even possible? Because I remember there was like this Overwatch girl who would stream, and she was not, 18 or whatever, and it was just like... she started getting big before she turned 18, so there's just always like this, I feel like, running joke in her chat or something like that, where, not that she was jailbait, and not that I participated in those jokes, but honestly, sometimes I get frustrated with like other streamers that I watch on Twitch and stuff, because like they just like a lot of Twitch streamers don't have a very good sense of humor. Did you guys ever notice that? Or their humor has to be within the context of, like, has to be very specific within the context of, like, oh, they're watching a humorous video, let's laugh together, ha 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 ha. Like, that's fine and stuff, but, like, when it comes to people typing in their chat, like, you're gonna get a lot of, I mean, even right now, I have close to 600 people watching this stream, or however many people have come through. Like, not everyone's going to exist within this, like, sort of, like, hyper-specific PC, you know, sense of humor, and obviously it's gonna cover a wide array of input, so to speak. And I always feel like so many streamers get, like, triggered by really stupid shit, and or offended, or they ban somebody about, like, you know, the jokes to this and that, the jokes to that and that, and it's just like, dude, just be like funny or something. Jeez, chill. Sora, thank you. I try my best. I am trying my best. Alec Vega with the 3 says, do you think in the future year flying cars are here? I think by 2020 we'll have flying cars. I mean, there's no indication that they're in the works, and most of the people say it's kind of impossible, but I mean, it's 2020. If we don't have flying cars, we might as well just nuke our entire planet. If not, we'll just make drones that are size that we can literally sit on and fly around in. Or I could just put balloons on my car, like a lot of little balloons. Okay, guys, you keep Joel on his toes. Don't let him shower with his roommate without me. I gotta go, everyone. Take it easy, and God bless everyone with freckles. God bless you, Jensen. You better have some freckles on that body. Jason said, I destroyed my air conditioner in a rage fueled by frosted mini wheats and uptight English college girl latte memes. Hell yeah, dude. Fuck that air conditioner. You ready to live in the Fallout universe? The time has come. I like Fallout, but it's, like, so much harder than, like, Fallout 4 is the only one I really played, and it was so much more dangerous than Skyrim. Like, I feel like you could never just, like, relax and take in some pretty sights, because without even realizing there would be, like, a mine that would be like, beep, 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 and just blow up next to you. And then you'd have to go back to a save that was, like, an hour ago. Probably wrong. You're gonna steal my Cheerios if I leave? What the fudge? What the fudge? Bro, who is Joel? Who is Joel, chat? Who do you guys think Joel is? Who is Joel really? Lucius E with the 5. Buckaronis. Says keep it up. Thank you. Oh, a hug. Hugs Joel. I would love a nice huggity hug. I can't wait till teleportation is invented. That's gonna be sick. That's what I want in 2020. Teleportation. I'll just go everywhere. Lauren says, let it be known, when I come out with the app that turns Siri's voice into Joel's, the world will never be the same. Oh yeah, you know, dude, there's this freaking thing, and I remember, what's his name, from Key and Peele. I believe he was the one kind of like brought on to advertise it or talk about it, but it was essentially like Photoshop, but for people's voices, or like the, you know, the people behind Photoshop had created this program where it was like they could take a sample of your voice, and then the AI could create a perfect sort of rendition of your voice by just typing in sentences, and then it you know, essentially had created a new you know, it could like replicate your voice saying whatever, you know, because they did, you know, they had, I believe there's demonstrations online, but then like that project I think was killed pretty quickly, most likely because it was probably stolen from by the government, or, you know, they didn't want to keep it out of the public's hands on the off chance that someone uses that to call, like, you know, a CEO and say, hey, this is Mr. Johnson, this is Mr. YouTube, shut the website down, I'm sick of it. Yes sir, right away, we're shutting down YouTube. Venus Flytrap with the 5 says, love your Let's Read, so relaxing as I do chores. Thank you, Venus. I'm your Venus. I'm your desire, your desire, your desire. Alright, shower is complete. Let us continue onward. Oh yeah, when I say Alexa. Alexa, play Despacito 2. The PI had known all about the investigation for a little while, but was unable to say anything until arrests were made. That morning he had called her to give her all of his findings. The arrest had begun, and he was given the okay to let her in on everything he knew. The private investigator told her... Sorry. I can't replicate my mouth farts. You can do it, I believe in you. The private investigator told her in his entire time in and out of law enforcement, he had never heard of a cop being allowed to stay on undercover work for as long as her husband, especially in local capacity. A couple of the other narcotics cops told him, off the record, that they had heard that her husband had been asking to transfer out of the unit, but the only transfers... Let me do that again. Fury, or Furry, with a 5 says, wanted to say, I love your vids, I love drawing while listening to them. Nice. If anybody has any sort of like time-lapse drawings or something that they want to submit as background, I know I have not been super common with posting those for the people that have submitted them, but I really do want to find, kind of have a continuous influx of like time-lapse art that people could submit, or thumbnail art and that kind of stuff, because I'd love to show it off and give you some exposure on the social media. Am I a Mandalorian? Well, weapons are my religion. Off the record, let's read. Let's go off the record. Off the record, let's read. Let's go off the record. Oh. Favorite words said by Joel. Capacity. Capacity. A couple of other narcotics cops told him, off the record, that they had heard that her husband had been asking to transfer out of the unit, but the transfers kept getting blocked. This lad... Fuck. Freaking crap, dude. This last tidbit of information was quickly followed up with a reminder that the police department rarely admits when it's at fault for something, and she should give up on the idea of anyone connected to it accepting any guilt in his death. She took his advice and thanked him for all his hard work. In the following weeks, the remains of her husband would be recovered and given a proper funeral. I attended the service, and it definitely had an air of bitter sweetness to it. Everyone had given up hope on him being alive long ago, and were just happy to have him back and know what happened. I would soon go off to college and lose contact with my friend, but I did keep up on the case and was happy to see his dad's murderers were convicted. They have both since been executed, and I hope they're burning in hell. And this music, is it blowing anybody else's ears out? I hope not. Oof. Oofity oof. Poopity scoop. Oofity oofity scoop. Poopity whoop. Oofity oofity scoop oof. Oof oof oof. Alright, so. Iron Kalulu. Iron Chalulu. Weston's funny, man. Weston's a funny boy. He's a funny boy. He's a little funny boy. Alright, KFC Man with the $1 buckaroonie. Thanks you, my friend. Iron Cthulhu. Apocalypse. You want a scoop of juice? You want a scoop of this juice? A scoopity poopity poopity juice. Alright guys, we're going to be doing the outro here. First I want to thank you guys all for being up in this piece. Yeah. You know what I really want is like a cool outro. I want a cool outro, animation or some sort of like background thing. But I want like a really chill like music, like cool music that you guys can like kind of get used to hearing every time. And I don't know, I think that would be dope. I mean, I feel like a lot of other streamers I watch kind of do that, where they have cool music, like the stream is ending and like some sweet music is playing and stuff. An alien massage, that sounds amazing. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let's Read Official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merch on Spreadshirt. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all these stories in long compilation form and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, embrace the suck. Yeah. KFC Man with the 3 says, did you have a good Christmas? I did, my friend. It was great because after I, hung out with family and, had lunch and went into the evening, I went over to my buddy's place from work, from my old job, and he's got like 6 kids, ranging from like 3 years old all the way up to 15 or something like that, which is crazy. And God, it's such a good family. It's just nice to be, and he had other friends over and his extended family. It was just a really good vibe. And the kids actually showed me the new Pokemon game, which actually looked pretty decent. Like, I was like, wow, that's a really big jump up. But yeah, sometimes it just feels really good to be around families and just happy-go-lucky people. It's just awesome, especially this time of the year. Harley Belden with the 10 says, we appreciate you, Joel. Thank you, Harley. It's very generous of you. Thank you for the 10. Embrace the suck. Alright, I'll say it. Oh my god, did you guys hear that? My cat is like smashing his body to get in the fucking door. It's crazy. And all he does is just like jump up on the bed and just go like, wee woo wee woo, hey wee woo wee woo, I'm a cat, wee woo wee. I say, you're damn right, boy. You're damn right. Thanks so much, friends. And remember to always embrace the suck. Embrace the suck. I actually deserve 2 mistakes for that. Thank you, Spartan. Well, guys, let me tell you something. Well, first off, this video will be officially edited and out, the audio first on Patreon, so if you want to get that, that's $1 a month, and you get all that early access there. And, well, we finished before midnight, so I might actually have time to edit tonight, which would be pretty dope. You could voice an episode of Rick and Morty. That would be fun. That would be sweet. But yeah, then this will be out tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever else you are in the world based on that time. David Poole, what's good, bro? And yeah. Vampires embrace the suck. This is true. But I digress. Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Love you. Like I said, if you guys want to chat with the community more, like this chat's constantly going in the Discord, and you can join the voice chat, and sometimes I'm in there just jibber-jabbing. I'm probably not quite as energetic there as I am here, but I'm always happy to talk and catch a vibe, if you know what I'm saying. Ha 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 ha. All right. Love you guys. Stay tuned for the new video. It's coming. We got lots of other good stuff coming. New videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week. Follow the podcast if you want the big compilations. You know what it do, shouty.